Hello. Just want to put, a little short video up of the libertarian versus libertarian bickering that I've heard in the last 2 days. I'm really disgusted at how some of the major talk show hosts that I really have a lot of respect for and have learned a lot from over the last 3 or 4 years. This week I've heard Alex Jones bashing Glenn Beck, Glenn Beck bashing Alex Jones, calling him a piece of garbage. Another guy, Chris Duane from Truth Never Told, Silver Shield, and Sons of Liberty Academy, bashing Glenn Beck. Chris Duane versus Ann Barnhart. And one of the biggest things that really bothered me was this succession movement that's going on. And, a couple of days ago, I think it was yesterday, Glenn Beck was saying, don't sign this list. Don't put your name on this list. And I was watching a video today, I guess it was Carrie Lutz's channel on YouTube, and Chris Duane is saying, I bet Glenn Beck said, go ahead and put your name on this. I'm backing this. I'm supporting this. And that's the exact opposite of what Glenn actually told his listeners. I kind of agree with that. With the government's ability with NDAA to basically disappear you, I think it would be wise to keep your name off such a list. Secession is not going to happen just because you sign your name to a list and send it to the White House. If anything, it's probably got repercussions to it. You probably get audited. You could be disappeared. Chris Duane was saying on this interview with Carrie Lutz that the solution isn't a collective solution, and it's not. It's an individual solution. Be the change that you want to see in the world. It starts with you, the individual. Stop joining these collective movements, and, you can't change it from the inside, and I kind of agree with that. And then he bashes Ann Barnhart, which has decided that she's not going to file her taxes. And I kind of agree with that too, but she's got the balls to stand up. That's an individual choice. And I'm just disgusted with the bickering because we just need to get, not on the same sheet of music, but I think that we really need to kind of band together. We're all wanting the same thing, which is liberty. And you can learn a lot from all of these, these talk shows, hosts, YouTubers. And I got a great deal of respect for all of them for, taking the time to put this alternative media out there. And, the pissing contest that's going on, the territorial, it's like two junkyard dogs fighting over, who's the bigger badass on the block. And I think you're pushing a lot of listeners, I was pissed today. I wanted to cut all of it off. One of the biggest things that I had today, that I was listening to the Survival podcast, and it was a listener, question, host answers a listener's question today, and Jack actually went ballistic on one of his listeners, and I think the listener maybe, was stating his disgust at the whole entitlement attitude following the election, and these guys probably feeling, a little bitterness, and I can understand that. I am too. But I think Jack needed to, take it a little easier on this guy because, it really put a bad taste in my mouth. And one of the biggest, influences the last couple of years on me has been the Survival Podcast. And Jack, he shares so much information with people that, it really will change, your life. And I was just disgusted to hear, him go off on this guy. And the guy had some valid points, but so did Jack. But he handled it in a poor manner. And, I'm really turned off by the alternative media this week. You guys need to get your shit together and stop fighting with each other. There's bigger fish to fry. See ya.